Venus is within 10 degrees of the sun. So that's when we say that she is going into the underworld. We can't see her anymore. She's no longer visible as the morning star. And it's a new phase of this larger 19-month journey that we're on. So
Yes. So let's talk all about that. Venus, our love. So she's been in this Leo cycle, and we've been feeling the fiery energy of Venus and Aries this last 3, 4 weeks, right? And Venus and Aries has been our initiation. And I think of the whole morning star descent portion of the cycle, which we just are completing right now, as the warrior part of Venus, where she is initiating. And that's what she does in Aries. It's perfect, right? And she's initiating into death because she wants this full understanding and complete surrender of anything holding her back from the depth of wisdom of what the underworld brings, because she doesn't know. And so she's adventuring down. And the thing that Venus wants right now is to feel that intensity of passion and purpose and taking action. Welcome to Venus Blueprint Astrology, where we explore the secret wisdoms of the sacred feminine as the much needed medicine the world needs at this time. I'm Alicia Love, and this is my Mage sister, Stella Ray. And today we are walking you through some of the big energies from the full moon in Scorpio to the Taurus New Moon in a couple of weeks. We're highlighting Venus, bringing feminine consciousness to the forefront to support the much needed rebalancing between the feminine and the masculine. We would love it if you joined us for our virtual circle on May 1st, which is Beltane, the cross quarter point between spring equinox and the summer solstice. We're going to create a sacred space for women to bring their astrological knowledge of their own birth chart and what might be coming up for you around those energies, so you can feel held and nourished within a circle of women in sacred ceremony.
Lovely. Yes. And as part of this, we feel really called to bring in the sacred feminine as this third wave of feminism, much needed on this planet, bringing that into our lives, into our world, and onto this planet. And we believe that women need new female rites of passage to bring us together at this time for this purpose. That the recovery of the sacred feminine is not something that we can do alone. So we value all of your comments and your personal experience. We'd love to hear from you how you are experiencing all the energies of this time. And if you are feeling this call to define new female rites of passages for ourselves, come and join us. Come and be in circle with us. There's a link below to register and join us. Your first circle with us is free, so come and be part of this energy with us that we're so happy to be seeding. All right, so what is going on in the cosmos? Where should we start? What are the big energies that we want to be looking out for?
Well, that Scorpio full moon was pretty intense. And we're just now out of Mercury retrograde. And I actually like Mercury retrogrades. Not everybody has an easy time because it's a rewind, it's a reversal, it's going back over the degrees that Mercury already traveled, but we're getting a chance to go over that again. And I like the way you say it. we get to review that material. And it's
Yes.
like, what is it that came up for us? And how do we want to do things differently? And that's a big point to make during Mercury retrograde. And now that we're out of it, it's like, oh, it's going to feel so much easier and more fun to review that material with the wisdom that we got during the retrograde. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Just like when Venus is in retrograde, it's like a metamorphosis that Mercury is going through. And that particular metamorphosis was crazy because it was involved in the huge eclipse energies. Chiron was involved. The North Node was involved. So it was also this breakthrough, yet backward motion of Mercury. So it was a little confusing, I think, for people, and we felt that as this full force ahead, and yet Mercury is retrograding. So, and it was a long one too. It's like 25 days of retrograde for Mercury.
Mm, wow.
And so now that we're right at that 15-degree point, and then the next couple weeks get to go back over all that material.
Again.
Yeah, I do think it's going to feel good and clarifying. And, for all the themes that we talked about around the eclipse, like,
Mm.
okay, we had this big Aries breakthrough moment with the North Node being there. Yet we had Chiron there, which we were facing this wounding. I think there's going to be an opportunity to say again, okay, wait, what did we seed with that? What was the breakthrough that we had around our self-definition, around our courage to move forward, around declaring our sacred boundaries and our mission in life? And I think it's going to all feel a little bit clearer, like this review process that we get. It's like this little gift of getting to review it. And then maybe also clarifying what some of the Libra dynamics are that we are letting go with the South Node Libra aspect. So I think there's going to be this great opportunity to reflect on our needs, maybe even some opportunities to clarify with people in our lives some of this insight.
Mhm.
Like maybe we have conversations with people now that we have a little bit more time for clarity and integration. Like, this is what I feel is kind of a new definition of what I'm up to and what my mission is and what my next steps are.
That's a good thing to think about as we're walking towards the new moon, which
Yeah.
means the moon is waning right now, and we are going back into the like, what are we really doing differently? How do we want to seed something new? And it's been new thing after new thing with the eclipses and even that full moon. So I'm thinking that it's all been in Aries. And like you said, it's that sovereignty, that inner warrior of how you're on mission for things. And Venus in Aries has been feeling the same way,
Yeah.
right? And she's going to continue in her last few degrees of Aries to initiate us into the underworld as our next big Venus part of the blueprint and the cycle and the adventure of where we're headed. So we're still in that initiation energy. And I love the way you're talking about it. Like Mercury is our throat chakra, it's our communication about it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about
Mhm.
it with our friends and our family and get the word out there. Like, this is what happened for me during the last month of intensity. And here's how I want to see it differently and do it
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah. And bringing in some of that diplomacy that we talked about, like, and how's it been for you? And how can I support you? And here's how I need to be supported. Like, wouldn't it be great if we could have those conversations with people? Like, how have you been redefining yourself? Here's how I have. Like, how can I support you? How can you support me? How can we meet as equal partners with the Libra, Aries finding their dance and finding their balance? We're still very much in those themes. And I
It's
do
going to
think,
continue. Yeah,
yeah,
because even
yeah,
after, and we're going to talk about this, Venus will move into Taurus. The sun is already in Taurus, but Mars is going to bring up the rear with
yeah,
all of those same degrees going through Aries and bringing action to it all. So the first action we can do is to talk about it. And that's the truth with the magic of our words and the whole manifesting process is you can't create anything until you think about it, talk about it, and then do it. And
yeah,
that's like this exact progression that we're going through, which is
yeah,
going to feel really good, I think, going
that
into
too.
the late
So
spring and
true.
into summer.
Yeah, and here we go. So we've got this juxtaposition. We're like in spring and summer seasonally, and yet Venus is making her way. Just in recording of this, it'll be tomorrow, right? That
Right.
Venus is within 10 degrees of the sun. So that's when we say that she is going into the underworld. We can't see her anymore. She's no longer visible as the morning star. And it's a new phase of this larger 19-month journey that we're on. So
Yes. So let's talk all about that.
let's
Venus,
do
our love. So she's been in this Leo cycle, and we've been feeling the fiery energy of Venus and Aries this last 3, 4 weeks, right? And Venus and Aries has been our initiation. And I think of the whole morning star descent portion of the cycle, which we just are completing right now, as the warrior part of Venus where she is initiating. And that's what she does in Aries. It's perfect, right? And she's initiating into death because she wants this full understanding and complete surrender of anything holding her back from the depth of wisdom of what the underworld brings, because she doesn't know. And so she's adventuring down. And the thing that Venus wants right now is to feel that intensity of passion and purpose and taking action. So she's full force going into the underworld. And by the time this is published, it'll be underworld time. We'll be like, yes, okay, now we're in the underworld. We're doing this whole thing we set out to do. We're finally here. This was the point of the journey in this
Yeah.
part of it, right? So she's passionately excited to be in this complete naked death place. And the way we've been talking about it these last few days, like, what's it going to feel like? How is this going to be? Is like going deep down into the earth to incubate and reemerge. When
Mhm.
she comes out as the evening star, she's going to be like all that energy we've been nurturing into this like pregnant feeling of something's going to be different. We're transforming and changing. It's going to be different on the other side. But we don't know what that's like when we're in the womb and it's all dark and we just don't have any anywhere to go or anything to do. Venus is going to be moving right into Taurus a couple days after that. So it'll be a great earth embodied dropping down and into the pleasure and the sensations of embodiment in that beautiful wombic energy of the underworld, right?
Yeah, because it's tough because, in the classical story of Inanna, when she goes into the underworld, she's going to get hung on a meat hook
Not
and left
pretty.
there
Death
to
is not
die.
glamorous, no.
Yeah, but it is that juxtaposition of, and, as she submits to that process and as she gets some assistance in the underworld with the empathy and the self-compassion that her sister Erishkigal in the underworld needs, they get to have a new dance. Inanna gets to be reborn. And so there is a sense of, as we surrender to the process, and we don't need to obviously think of it as an actual brutal or violent or physical kind of death, but it can feel difficult to let go of those final attachments, those final things that might be keeping us stuck in our limited beliefs about what's possible, or the habituated patterns that we might still be just stuck in and feel hopeless to change. And there is this element here of faith and anticipation that if we stay with the process, that we will come out on the other side. It's like the most classic story of all time, like the death and the rebirth. So yes, I think Venus in Aries is rearing to do it. And then the energy shifting to Taurus will help us to feel more settled in that experience and to take pleasure in what it feels like to emerge or to prepare for that emergence. So
Yeah.
that's a beautiful process we get to be in. Yeah.
Yes, I know that Venus and Taurus feel so good because she's at home. That's
Yeah.
her home sign, between Taurus and Libra, being just so Venetian and connected to this the pleasure of being in the garden, right? And enjoying life and the beauty of what comes out of the earth. And it has to do with, and we're going to be working with this, I think, our relationship to money, and
Mhm.
just releasing old patterns around what it means to be valued. I know in the women's circle and sistership circle, a lot of us are bringing
Mhm.
up value and worth. And I think it's just going to get massaged and processed and beautifully like initiated then when the we call it the star point, right? But it's the alignment with Venus and the sun, the Kazemi little kiss as she goes through the center of the sun. And that'll be in Gemini. And then it'll move into Cancer before she comes back out again. And so we're going to get to go through this whole range. And the Taurus energy is going to be firm with us. And Venus and Taurus holds her ground, right? She's a little bit stubborn. We got the horns up. We're
Mhm.
going to be really grounded and rooted, 4 feet on the ground kind of feeling. And there's a tenaciousness about what we're doing in
Mhm.
Venus and Taurus energy to really get through to the other side. So that's also going to feel really good. It's not like this underworld time is just going to be like the raw and like carcass energy of just decay. It's I've been feeling it more like a pregnant belly, and the below the earth energy that happens when you plant a seed and it starts to root. You don't see the shoot come up until it's ready, but the roots are already growing. And so that garden analogy and pleasure is important with Venus and Taurus. But she's also seeking intimacy with others and with herself. Yeah.
Yes.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of that, like connection on the physical and being close and enjoying the comforts. I know I take a lot of baths and go to hot springs and do all
Mhm.
of that. It's going to be so good to feel into that Taurus Venus energy.
Yes. I mean, I think essentially Taurus is so self-valuing. So whatever it is for us that connects us to a sense of our own value and worth, even if we are experiencing places that feel like composting or patterns within us that are still falling away or that we still feel stuck in. I think having an awareness of how we can value ourselves even in that process as beautiful, like that itself can be a beautiful process. It doesn't always have to be love and light in every moment. There is a beauty to the dark and to the feminine dark and to accepting where we are in that process and feeling into the liberation that is bringing us. So Yes, Taurus feels comforting and definitely assisting us in those first phases of that underworld journey. And then Gemini, right? Then we move into the Gemini dimension. So it's interesting, all of Venus in Taurus and all of Venus in Gemini is all in this underworld part of Venus's journey. So in Gemini, and I know this is your Venus sign in Gemini. So yeah, how do you feel that Venus in Gemini is creating sort of this fuel for the next phase of the journey that we're going to be on, which is this ascent phase of the journey out in front of us?
Yes, Venus in Gemini wants to take flight. It's another air sign that brings us a lot of energy to move through things. So that's going to be assisting the whole underworld journey and what it is that you're ready to take flight for when she does reemerge, right?
Yeah.
And it'll be a lot of talking about the different possibilities. I have that Venus and Gemini energy in me, and I am such a social butterfly, and I do a lot of little projects and big projects. And I think that it's going to be pulling from the different facets of our hearts and who we are and what we're bringing to the world that is going to then be in another energy embodied in Cancer as she emerges. But that Gemini is going to really like swirl. I think of like a whirlpool of air of energy, like a not a tornado. Like what is sweeter and softer than a tornado? I don't know. Maybe tornado energy for some people.
Oh, yes, yes, I
The
love it.
whirlwind, that's for sure.
Whirlwind, yeah. Well, Gemini to me is also just so comfortable in all the different worlds. Like Gemini can be in the upper world and then down in the underworld. It's one of the few signs in that sort of quality of Mercury that it can take the underworld journey, but it can also be
So
equally
high.
comfortable in the celestial world. It's like it has that quality of being comfortable in all worlds. So I think it'll lend some um, resourcing to our underworld journey, some perspective, like that there's a time and place for all these different elements and sort of giving us maybe some foreshadowing, like you said, about what's to come, what we're headed towards, what new story that we're creating. Like Gemini wants to seed new stories, weave new stories. Like
So
what is our
that's our big thing we want everybody to take away from this video is what is it that you are seeding during this underworld time, right? And it's going to be this Taurus energy that helps us plant it, and then the Gemini energy that helps us like really whirl it into form. And
yeah.
what is it going to be on the other side? We'll like flow into it with Cancer, but this
Mhm.
is going to be like what is it that we want to create during this underworld time? I know you and I have a big
Yeah.
course that we're creating for everyone to learn this information, the Venus Blueprint, and individually, like for me, we're talking about this new moon in Taurus coming up as well. So all this Taurus intentional energy for me is about valuing my peace of mind by clutter clearing my physical space. I want my space to feel really clean and clear in this underworld time. So I'm going to spend time doing this. And in soul coaching, we have a whole week and through the whole month of doing the 28-day program, it's like clutter clearing is every other or every third day as something, anything. It could be your sock drawer, pairing up your socks. Like that is such a symbolic way to intentionally put paired wholeness energy back into your life. So it's
Hmm.
those little things. Yeah,
Yes,
feels good, right?
I love it. I love it. And I think, like you said, there are a lot of things that we're seeding together and in Gemini, which is like a new story that we are weaving for the feminine and inviting women into that process with us. And for me personally, I think it's similarly small acts of self-valuing. meaning noticing when, in the smallest ways, that I am abandoning myself in service of that tendency to just slip back into an act of underappreciation, we'll say. There's so many chances in our day, in our worlds, to do the smallest thing to reaffirm to ourselves value. Like even just tidying and picking up the house too, for me, even though I really don't like cleaning. I just really don't. I really don't. But I do. But I do like the feeling of, I'm going to do this for myself as an act of kindness, because I know down the road, tomorrow, later in the day, it's going to nourish me to look around and feel this clear space. And so I think doing that as an act of self-valuing is inspiring to me.
And I've noticed it with my teenager too, wanting to do more affirmation. When you do those little things, like you said, self-affirming that you did a good job. Like, yay,
Yeah,
you taking
yeah,
care of things and feeling good about it, and amplifying that feeling good
yeah,
feeling.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
awesome.
then we're going to move, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but I think it's kind of nice to seed and to feel and to show this progression we're going to have, because we're going to move into Cancer then to start our whole ascent journey. And that feels like a great extension of all of the self-appreciation and self-love and nurturing and soft energy that we're going to be bringing into our whole ascent journey, as sort of a contrast to this Aries energy that we're
Going in with.
going in with, it's like it's fierce on the way down, but on the way up there's going to be this flavor of soft, receptive, nurturing, sweet energy that we get to really consciously seed in that whole progression. So
I love that. It's like when you're stacking on top with a foundation of
right.
sweetness and loving,
Yeah,
kindness, nurturing, then everything on top of that is going to have that rooted inside of it. And that's the thing, is it'll be in that Cancer in the root as
yeah,
we draw that into our being, and
yeah,
restructuring as we've been releasing on the way down. We're going to
yeah,
restructure and integrate every chakra on the way up through different signs. And we're following Venus through her beautiful journey.
yeah.
It's been so fun to be able to share this journey with everyone else. And I guess we can finish with the new moon in Taurus, because we're having our circle. We kind of base our circles on the lunations, like when the full moon and the new moon are coming through, but really the new moon is the one that Venus has a closest relationship to, at the morning star and the evening star. And in this underworld time, it's going to be a pretty big initiation into this Taurus energy to have a Taurus new moon. You want to talk about that?
Yes, yes. We are having our Taurus new moon, is it on the 8th, I believe, of May, so in a couple of weeks. And we've already kind of talked about that flavor of Taurus, and how we are weaving that together with Venus being in the underworld, still in Aries. So what are our intentions for this new moon, this really special underworld dimension new moon? Um,
By the time we get to the new moon, Venus is already going to be in Taurus.
that's right. She goes into Taurus like the day after she gets in the underworld. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, got there, did it. All right, now I can relax, which also feels like really appropriate to talk about, like, especially because we've had so much intensity with this solar eclipse and all this Aries energy. And there really is that shift. It's a very pronounced shift from Aries to Taurus, where it's like, you've done all of this kind of work. You've done all of this really strong seeding and energetic intending and mission oriented, purpose oriented patterning. And then Taurus is kind of like the deep breath that you take at the end of all that. Like,
I know. I just want to like sit inside my body a little bit deeper when you say like, oh, and then we're gonna get to like dunk right back in.
yeah, it's like, okay, like, well done, good
Yes.
work with all of
Soothing.
that hard work that we've been in, and Mercury again helping to integrate that for us. I think it's going to be really sweet to see this Taurus new moon, to understand that we can take a breath, that we can slow down a little bit, that we can relax and enjoy the ride, and we can connect with the earth in a very simple, direct, immediate way in order to be nourished and sustained for the fullness of what the journey brings. So I do think it's a sweet time for being nourished.
Yeah. Yeah. And that new moon in Taurus is going to anchor that, maybe is a good way to say it. And it's there with Neptune, no, Uranus,
Mhm.
close to Uranus, and Jupiter, going on and continuing, and will be in Gemini then pretty soon as well. So we're like really milking this Taurus rooted energy. By the new moon, it'll feel really settled,
Mhm.
and you can really drop into that intention for embodied presence, right? That's
Like that.
really what's going to get us through the whole underworld processing,
Mhm.
is to stay really present and trusting the process.
Yes, I love that. Embodied presence is a great phrase for Taurus. And
Yeah.
especially like we were saying, after all that Scorpio full moon energy that we probably all felt in our own ways, but as intense,
Yeah.
Taurus is a great balance and complement to bring us back
Yeah.
down and into our bodies. With Uranus, there might still be a sense of things getting shooken up around that.
Like
It,
earthquake a little bit, like, ooh,
yeah,
it might, yeah, crack something open and help
yeah.
release or, yeah, support.
Hmm. Or remind us whatever was happening during that Uranus Jupiter conjunction, if there was anything for you in your charts that was especially around that degree point. I think it was 21, and the new moon is in 18, so it's pretty close by that energy. So it may help to solidify or give a little more reminder of what needs to get shaken up a little bit around where we're not self-valuing, where we're not allowing ourselves to rest and to receive.
Yeah, I feel that. We're just going to keep getting the reminders. If we're not getting it, the universe just keeps like bonking you on the head until you get it. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
reminders that we love. And that's why we watch the stars, and that's why we feel into this energy to remember and
Yes.
to initiate ourselves through the process with a conscious evolutionary focus. So
Yes.
join us in our circles because that's what we focus on.
Mhm.
And look for our underworld seedings as we are preparing a beautiful program to really deeply understand this and enjoy this feeling of surrender and being in this wombic energy of connection to the earth.
Yes. Lovely.
All right, until next time.
See you then. Bye. Mhm.